The idea that the best America can do for president is President Joe Biden or former President Donald Trump has to be a commentary on how broken our political system is. This has to be a bottom, does it not? And it is making so many face a true dilemma. Well, I can't vote for Trump because he's a jerk and everything about him is terrible. But I like the policies, but I don't want Trump. Well, so I guess I'll vote for Biden. But I don't know that he's going to make it through. And it seems like he's kind of losing it. And I'm afraid that the people behind him are really in control. And I think there's something to this deep state stuff. I also think he may be a little shady with how he handled his son. And I think his VP choice is inadequate. So what do I do? How many of you are facing that right now, where you don't like either choice? And I know that's often the case, but not to this degree. Am I right? I know. I have an answer for you. A lot of people are going to get pissed at me about it. That's okay. I'm Chris Cuomo. This is the Chris Cuomo Project. Thank you for subscribing and following. Here's what I'm saying. On November 5, everybody's believing that the big decision that you have to make is who to choose for president. And that everything else is secondary, and that will decide everything. Who do you choose for president in 2024? I'm here to tell you, I don't think that that's the true proposition. Okay? You got 468 seats are up. All of the House and 33 senators. Okay? That's a lot of people. The whole reason that you think you have to vote for president and get it right is because they're going to decide everything. It's not really true if you think about it. Even with Trump, who fancies himself an autocrat, how much of what happened was really him? He didn't design the tax plan. The Republicans did. I'm not saying he doesn't deserve credit for it or blame. I'm not saying that he didn't want it. I'm just saying, did he design it? No, he doesn't know anything about policy. That's the truth. Everything he did was a function of what the people around him were trying to make him do, except all the PR stuff and the politic speak and all the trouble. That's all coming out of his face and his head, no question. But the policies, if that's what you think you want, they're not really coming from him anyway. I'm getting to a point here. The taxes, the immigration stuff, the taxes is going to be the sum total of the economic stuff. A little bit of trade there. Trump is a little different than his party. But it's about the we, not the me, a lot more than you think. Same thing on the Democratic side of the ball with Biden. A lot of it is about what the congressional leaders can get through. So my proposition to you is this. Many of you are going to stay home. I don't believe, and I could be wrong, and frankly, I hope I am wrong, because I always want turnout to be a new high. The more participation, the better, because the more we get past the fringe elements and the diehards and the zealots to the regular people who are just being pragmatic and being practical and thinking reasonably, so the more people who vote, the better. But I actually think the voting numbers are going to be disappointing this time because people see the proposition as going out for Biden or Trump, and they don't like either of them, and I get why you don't. But I'm here to tell you, you can vote anyway and just don't vote for president. Now, some people will say, well, vote for Bobby Kennedy or Jill Stein. Now, I haven't even had Jill Stein on this time around because I got to tell you, I don't think she's relevant in the race. She's polling as a hash mark. And I do think that there should be some chance that you can have an influence in the race, for me to have you on. Well, but you had Cornel West on. Yeah, I know him and I like him. And I think he's much more of a factor in our political dialogue than Jill Stein is. No disrespect to her. I've interviewed her before. I did a town hall with her, I believe. But here's my point. You don't have to vote for Biden. And you don't have to vote for Trump. And you don't have to have the guilt of voting for Bobby Kennedy and helping Biden or Trump win. Just don't vote. Vote for the congressional seats. And you will wind up doing what's going to have the greatest influence anyway. Because That's what's going to shape the situation. Think about it. How much has Biden been able to get done? Now, I get the argument that he should have done a lot more by executive order. In fact, he did at the beginning by undoing a lot of Trump's executive orders, which absolutely destabilized the southern border. It did not help. I accept the argument, but it made things worse. Why he did it? That's for him to explain. I think he's just caving to the left, who believes that anything you do to monitor who comes in makes you a racist, which is crazy. I also don't accept the idea that they're doing this because they want to bring in all these new Democratic voters. I don't believe that. But anyway, it doesn't matter. The point is this. He can't get anything done because Congress won't do anything. You see what I'm saying? So one or two things are going to happen. The numbers are going to stay so close in Congress that it doesn't matter who the president is except for the noise and the drama and some foreign decisions, because almost everything domestic that matters needs legislation. So you're better off just voting for Congress. Vote in those races, especially if you're in states where they're contested races. And you'll be having more of an influence. Support for the Chris Cuomo Project comes from Cozy Earth. Let me tell you, bedding matters. And this isn't just me telling you this. In a recent survey, 7 out of 10 parents said that they get an average of 3 hours of sleep a night in the baby's first year. Hello, Greg. Now, mommies need quality sleep, and bedding will matter. There are other variables, but here's one that you can control, okay? When we made the switch to Cozy Earth, I noticed the difference. I did not know that fabric or textiles could really be temperature sensitive, meaning if it's cold, they keep you warm. If it's warm, they can kind of cool you off. I did not know that. I know it now because I have Cozy Earth, okay? So, this Mother's Day, why don't you treat the mamas in your life to the luxury they deserve with Cozy Earth bedding and sleepwear and prioritize her self-care and sleep health? Doesn't she deserve it? Don't forget, use my promo code Chris at checkout and you'll get 35% off at CozyEarth.com, okay? When you place your order, select podcast in the survey and select my show in the drop-down, and that will make me very happy. It's getting warmer. You want to be fit. You don't want to be inside. You know what that's a recipe for? Fueling up with Factor's no prep, no mess meals. Factor, meet your wellness goals in time for summer. You need the right fuel. You can't out-train your diet. You need chef-crafted meals. Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, Keto, whatever your vibe is. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals, key to keeping the nutritional value, are dietitian approved and ready to eat in just 2 minutes. So, you're busy? Of course you are. You want to get out, but you want to enjoy something that's giving you what you need, including great taste. That's what Factor's all about. Head to factormeals.com/Cuomo50. Use code Cuomo50. Why is it 50? Because you get 50% off your first box, plus 20% off the next month. That's code Cuomo50 at factormeals.com/Cuomo50, and you get 50% off your first box, plus 20% off your next month while your subscription is active. Support for the Chris Cuomo Project comes from ZBiotics. Let me tell you something. We all know that there can be a tendency to overdo it when you drink, right? Hello, ZBiotics. How does it work? Alcohol screws you up because it gets converted into a toxic byproduct in your gut. It's this byproduct, not just dehydration as we've always thought, that's to blame for the rough next day. ZBiotics produces an enzyme to break down the byproduct. You see? You just got to remember to take ZBiotics as your first drink of the night. And of course, don't be a sponge. If you're responsible about your drinking and you start with ZBiotics, you will feel fine the next day. How do I know? Because I've done it. I'm not just saying I've drunk too much. That's happened dozens and dozens of times, which is why I drink very, very rarely. But when I do, I try to think before I drink. And that's where ZBiotics comes in. Go to ZBiotics.com/Chris and you'll get 15% off your first order. Use Chris at checkout. ZBiotics is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee. So if you don't like it, if it didn't work, if it's not what I said, they'll refund you your money, no questions asked. Remember, head to ZBiotics.com/Chris. Use the code Chris at checkout. You get 15% off. And I want to thank ZBiotics for sponsoring this episode and future good times. This is not a radical idea. The reason that we believe you have to vote for all of the races, the entire ticket, as they call it, is an extension of this poison party principle that you're all in, right? Go blue, go red, down the line, right? That's what people do. Even for like judges that you've never heard of before. Well, they're on the ticket and this is my ticket. We don't even know what these parties represent half the time anymore. It's all situational for them. It's usually more than situational. It's situational as a function of being oppositional, meaning they're just against whatever the other one is for, right? So that's where this voting for all the races and this guilt dynamic, oh, I didn't vote, I feel bad. Don't feel bad. Vote for what matters to you. I get why a vote for Biden or a vote for Trump, unless you buy into the rationale that you're stopping the other by voting for one, I think that's highly unsatisfying. And I think that you should go to the polls anyway or mail it in. I actually suggest you all mail it in. Why deal with the lines? Why deal with the frustration? Just mail it in. The reason people do it is don't do it is because it takes a little bit more effort because you got to like ask for the ballot and then send it in. It's like, how lazy are you? This is your democracy we're talking about. You can't just do a little paperwork. I say vote anyway, even if you're disgusted by the presidential thing, because Congress matters as much or more. And they don't just follow the president the way they used to. That's a little bit more true on the right than it is on the left. But think about it that way and voting for one side. And when you look at it this time, what would that mean? Okay, what are big ticket issues? Immigration. Now, that is one that actually works against what I'm saying. Because immigration, you can have a lot of executive orders that may make a difference. Now, a lot of them got hung up in litigation last time under the Trump administration because they didn't think he could do it unilaterally. So I could still be right. But when it comes to immigration, the president has a lot of leeway. For instance, Trump's ban of Muslims. Once he worded it correctly, he was able to do it, where it didn't look like he was just outlawing an entire faith. So once they finessed it, even though that's exactly what he wanted to do, I love Muslims. I have lots of Muslim friends. I just think Islam hates us. Only that guy can say that. And people don't see it as like a complete disqualifier for him. But again, I see Trump as a metaphor for the madness of our party system. Only in this totally poisoned party political system can you decide to vote for a guy even if he's convicted of major felonies. Like, if that is not a sign of how sick we are, I don't know what is. Oh, well, I think all the litigations are fake. It's all lawfare. That's bullshit. No, you don't. No, you don't. I didn't like the two New York cases. I've been very open, transparent, and outspoken about that. But let's be clear. He did what they say he did. He valued his property one way to borrow against it and another to pay taxes on it. He violated the law. They just never prosecute anybody else for that law. So why him? That reeked of politics. The Alvin Bragg case of the hush money payments. He did it. He denied it. I got the tape of him having the conversation with his bag man, Michael Cohen, and proved that he knew about it. He was lying about not knowing about it. He did what they say he did. Now, did he do it to save his campaign? I don't think so. I don't think they'll convince a jury of that. And I think that, too, reeks of politics. But not the Georgia case. Not the Georgia case, and not the documents case, but I don't really care about the documents case. The only point about the documents case is he knew he had things he wasn't supposed to have. He didn't sell them. He didn't use them for espionage. That'd be the only thing I'd care about. I don't know about you. But he intentionally refused the FBI and all of those legal requests to bring him back because he wanted the fight. So he kind of got what he asked for in that litigation. Again, he did what they say he did. But I just don't see any point to the policy behind that particular prosecution. And then you have the D.C. case, which is a much tougher call for me. I think he absolutely contributed to what happened on January 6th. Absolutely. And January 6th was not a protest gone wrong. Okay? It was a riot. I don't believe it was an insurrection because I don't believe it was a good faith effort to overtake the U.S. government. You go in there unarmed, you can't reasonably be expecting to hold the building or any type of power. But it was definitely a riot. It was definitely disgusting, and he definitely encouraged it. Now, is that a crime? I don't think so. Is it political malpractice? Is it disqualifying in terms of I'd never vote for him again? Well, that's what Geraldo Rivera says, and I respect that decision. But that doesn't mean that you should go to jail, prison for it. Now, a lot of you believe no one should have gone to prison for that, and that's bullshit. It's so funny to see people who felt like that about January 6th now wanting to see all these students on campus locked up forever because they broke into a building. Do you not see the irony in that? Well, but Cuomo, you've been going after... First of all, it's not about me. It's about your inconsistency, not mine. January 6th, riots, that makes you criminal for your behavior. You should get prosecuted. I feel the same way here. But I don't think breaking into a building in campus that the campus doesn't even care about enough to defend, right? They just let them break into it, is different than breaking into the U.S. Capitol as they're certifying a national election. Do I really have to argue this point? Doesn't mean I don't think what the kids are doing, those kids who are supporting violence towards Jews or Israel or supporting Hamas in any way. I mean, they're just so misguided. That's so disgusting. But I also think that's a very small number of these student protesters. I think in the main, they see an overwhelming military force causing needless suffering and murder and death in Gaza. And they want it to stop. And that's what it's about. And I have no problem with that. I think it's a short-sighted understanding of the how. And they're not seeing where the leverage is, which is their protest should start with, give back the hostages. Give them back. Give back the hostages. Give them back. Why? Because they stole people. And that's wrong. And they massacred on October 7th to make Israel come after them. They precipitated this. Oh yeah, but before that. But you can't but October 7th. Because on October 6th, we did not have an all-out war where Israel was bombing the shit out of the place, right? What changed? October 7th. Give back the hostages. Have free and fair elections that are not co-opted by a terror organization. Now you have the leverage to say, Israel, get out. You don't have any occupying here. Let's cut the settlements back in the West Bank because that's going to be the next front. And let's have some Arab neighborhood alliance to shepherd the Palestinian state into its own responsibility and control. That should be the solution. Now, look, this is a back of the cocktail napkin sketch, right? Because obviously, if it were that easy, you wouldn't have had, generational warfare there. But to protest the situation and not begin with saying, Hamas, you're a terrorist group, get out, get your boot off the neck of the Gazans, because that's what they want. No, the polls show 70% support Hamas. Now we believe polls, especially in a place where if you go against the ruling organization, they kill you. Come on. It's like, do you believe that Putin has 95% popularity in Russia? You think it has something to do with who controls the polls? And how people feel about speaking the truth about power? Come on. So I think they're misguided in terms of what the emphasis of the protest should be. You want the suffering to stop, you got to get to the how. And the how has to start with bringing back the hostages. There are Americans there, by the way. And getting rid of the terror organization whose mandate is to kill Jews and get rid of Israel. That is not Israel's mandate. To kill Gazans and get rid of Palestine. That's my problem with the genocide thing. It's my same problem with the insurrection thing about January 6th. The truth is enough. The truth is enough. January 6th was a riot that was designed to disrupt, destroy property. And that's criminal. And it's disgusting. But that doesn't mean that it was a legitimate attempt to overthrow the U.S. government. Well, what would have happened if they stopped the vote? They would have had the vote the next day. Because as soon as they brought the authorities in, they would have wiped all those guys out if they had gone in hard and heavy. Similarly, this is not a genocide in Gaza. Well, why not? They're killing so many people. It's your approach to killing that makes something a genocide. How so? And this is international law. This is accepted understanding and conformity of experiential learning, okay, in terms of what we've seen in other places. A genocide is where you want an entire type to no longer exist so that you kill indiscriminately and as effectively as possible. Man, woman, and child. Yeah, but they're killing man, woman, and child. Yes, they are, despite efforts not to. I'm telling you, this could be a lot worse. How do we know? Because America killed a lot more people at this point than after 9/11 than Israel has at this point after October 7th. Now, was that a genocide? No, we weren't doing a genocide either. We were doing the same thing that they're doing, which is just try to wipe out a terror organization which hides among the innocent and has had a lot of time to figure out how to hide in Gaza in a way that they didn't have in the Levant and the other places that we were fighting. So if we killed more people and it wasn't a genocide, how is the fact that they killed less when they could have killed everybody there by now and haven't? How does that make it a genocide? The truth is enough. There have been way too many innocents, tens of thousands who have died, and it didn't have to happen. But the how isn't just to ask Israel to unilaterally stop. They'd be setting themselves up to get attacked again, which is exactly what Hamas has promised. So, a lot of this you should already know because your leaders should be giving you this message. And let's face it, Biden has not been able to articulate this. And Trump has been oddly quiet about it, if you think about it. So I asked some of his guys, why has he been so quiet on this? And they say, oh, well, he obviously doesn't support terror groups and he supports Israel. Oh, wow, that's ambitious. Why has he been quiet? Well, he's been distracted by the litigation. Yeah, but he's been talking about that plenty. So it's not like he's following the gag order or staying quiet. He doesn't see a win. He doesn't see a win. He doesn't want to take on the situation because he doesn't want to have to control it and make decisions based on what happens there. Because it's not easy. Trump is all about easy wins. He doesn't do what's hard. He never has in his entire life. That's why he always looked to, go bankrupt and get bailed out when a lot of guys would have battled through. So leadership should be making this, and it takes me back to this fundamental proposition. The fact that the United States can't do better than Biden and Trump as choices for its president is sad. But it's also important that you see it that way because it's proof that the party system has failed us. But you don't have to fail yourself. Vote. If you can't vote for either of those guys, don't. If you don't want to vote for a third-party candidate because you don't want to, by proxy, influence one of those two winning, then don't. But vote for Congress. Vote for your local seats also. Because Congress is going to wind up having as much to say, if not more, about what happens in the preceding 4 years as whoever is president. No matter what their policy concerns are, if they don't have the margin in Congress, they're not getting it done, especially in these politics, this political perspective that we have now, which is opposition's a legitimate position and it's enough. So what I'm saying is, if you don't want to vote, don't vote for president, but vote down the line. And then you'll be satisfying your civic obligation, exercising your franchise, but also relieving yourself of having to pick from one of two bad choices. I'm Chris Cuomo. Thank you for subscribing and following to the Chris Cuomo Project. If you don't want the ads, and if you want to learn about how I'm trying to get through long COVID as it starts to spread across the country as a reality, join the Substack, and I'll see you on News Nation, 8 and 11 p. Eastern every weekday night. My friends, the problems are real, but we only have one choice. Let's get after it.